also mentioned the query performance insights will help you to identify what your longest running queries are. We've got some examples on that coming later in the session as well. And then the ability to really use the advanced threat detection, allowing you to detect anomalies in your data or anomalies in the access to your data, is actually one of the core features why customers decide to choose a PaaS Azure-based platform to build their secure applications and their secure environments on. From an integration perspective, support of the variety of program languages, really integrating within Azure DevOps and building applications that really are at a global scale, to take advantage of other services like containerized services, machine learning, logic apps, using Azure functions, or being able to ingest data using Azure Data Factory, for example, are one of the core opportunities you have in order for you to provide stronger integration, including data visualization capabilities with Power BI and other techniques to start visualizing the data. And of course, one of the things we'll be focusing on specifically is what it's going to take us to actually perform that database migration from the on-premises or already hosted environment and bring that over to Azure. Now, one of the unique features that we have with the PostgreSQL offering is the ability to scale out horizontally, okay? So we're building this Azure database of PostgreSQL as a relational database service in Azure, built for developers, and we're using the open source community version of open source PostgreSQL database engine, but we enhance this with hyperscale. It's a deployment option that gives you horizontal scale of your queries across multiple machines. So there's a sharding technique that actually being used in order to provide you massive parallel processing, where your query engine will parallelize the incoming SQL queries across these servers, which gives you faster response on much larger data sets. It serves your applications that require this greater scale and require this greater performance, or workloads that are either approaching over 100 gigabytes of data, really giving you that horizontal scale with parallel query execution, and also giving you excellent support for multi-tenant applications, which you probably might be running real-time operational analytics on, or you might have a need for some really advanced or high throughput transactional workloads. The applications you build could run distributed queries on the hyperscale platform by just using the standard PostgreSQL connection libraries, and might need minimal changes to your environment in order for you to implement that. And as we're continuing to adding open source extensions onto the platform, you really could bring all the goodness and the majority of the goodness that you've done with PostgreSQL already, move that over to the PaaS service on Azure. Now, in previous session, we did talk about the migration steps, and one of the things that we brought up was the database migration guide, giving you some insights on how to perform a migration and what are the steps associated with such migration. And what I want to do just real quick is actually pull up the migration guide here. Okay, so I have the Azure Database Migration Guide. It's very easy URL, datamigration.microsoft.com, and you can select what's going to be your source. You see, this is a very comprehensive set of items that you can look at. If I want to perform a migration from PostgreSQL and migrate to Azure Database for PostgreSQL, or I want to go to this migration from MySQL to Azure Database for MySQL, or to SQL servers, you see there's a variety of offerings, right? I have the option to also migrate an Oracle workload to Azure Database for PostgreSQL, and give you some very descriptive insights on how you would go about that migration. So let's have a click here on the Azure Database for PostgreSQL, where it's now going to load that scenario and talk about these before and after steps. What are you going to do before you start is understand on what are the PostgreSQL versions that are supported. Know that you can also perform a migration from AWS RDS and move that workload over to Azure. You'll go over the pre-migration steps, how the actual migration takes place. We'll have a look at that in detail as part of the